Ladies and gentlemen, the sleeper has awakened. Well, I mean, not technically. I mean, it's only the first part of it. I'm trying to tell you I saw Dune. God, I suck to sleep. Okay, I'm going to begin by stating something that's probably obvious to a lot of people, but just in case it's not, I'm just going to come out and say it right now. Dune is not for everybody, okay? There are three kinds of people in the world, if you ask me personally. The people who love Dune, the people who hate Dune, and the people like me who started out liking the first couple of books, but then got to Children of Dune and was like, okay, this is starting to get stupid. Bottom line, I will not be shocked if the only people who are interested in this movie are the people who liked the Frank Herbert novels, or if there was a group of people who saw the David Lynch movie and then went to see this one to see how normal it was compared to that lunatic. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you right now, I love David Lynch movies. I haven't seen all of them. I own Eraserhead, I love Lost Highway. Really need to see the rest, but let's be honest, David Lynch is a weirdo. And if I'm being entirely honest, Dune is not one of his better movies. It is probably his worst movie, in fact, I dare say. But therein lies a challenge when it comes to adapting Dune into a movie, because Dune does not really lend itself to interpretation from book to film, if you know what I'm saying. Somebody on here once said that you could do Dune the simplistic way, where you cut out all the nonsense and the grandioseness, and unfortunately you'd end up with something that's maybe like 20 minutes to half an hour. On the flip side, you could include all the grandiose and all the nonsense, and you'd probably end up with something that's like 6-7 hours long, maybe. You have to find the middle ground when trying to adapt Dune into a movie, and it's not an easy task. And as much as I say David Lynch's Dune is probably his worst movie, I still respect David Lynch for trying. I also respect this guy, whose name I've long since forgotten because it's a very odd name, and I am terrible with names by default. I'm really sorry about that in advance. I also applaud this guy for trying, because this dude took on a case that nobody should ever have to take on unless they feel like they are 100% ready for it. The important thing is, he tried. And did his try work? Well, I personally say yes, but there are some people who say no, and it's not hard to see why they say no. The big point that comes up is that people always talk about how the movie got cut in half, and how he's basically rolling the dice and hoping that this one is so successful that it generates enough income and enough interest to warrant making part two. Like, he didn't make both parts and then chop it in half. You know, he made part one, he's banking on part two, and that is a very interesting way of doing things. Maybe not the smartest thing to do, but, well, he went for it. Whether or not that works is entirely up to you, but I would say that the smart thing he did as a result was he ended the movie at the most logical place you could end a movie if you have to cut it in half, and in the case of Dune, he ended it at the point when Paul Atreides ended up joining the Fremen and is now on his way to becoming Muad'Dib. Oh, yeah, I would worry about spoilers and all, but you've had like 50, 60 years to read the book, come on. Another criticism a lot of people pull up is the color scheme and the acting and all that, and the color scheme is mostly a lot of orangish, tannish, and a lot of monochrome when you're dealing with the Harkonnen house and the Baron, and consider who's talking, considering I don't have the best eyesight in the universe, as I've prefaced at least once or twice this year, but I honestly didn't mind. I thought if you're gonna set the movie on a desert planet, that's probably the way to go. Also, I really didn't have a problem with anybody's performances. I mean, the source material is weird, yes, but honestly, I think you could have done a whole lot worse. In fact, I'm struggling to think if you could do any better. Will we ever see part two? I don't know, personally. I hope we do, because honestly, I liked this movie a lot. Admittedly, yeah, I'm a guy who likes some of the Dune books, but, you know, I think even if you don't like the Dune series the way Frank Herbert did it or the way David Lynch did it, I think you'll like it the way Dune 2021 did it here, because it's actually fairly straightforward. It's about as straightforward as you can be with the concept given. And that's probably the most beneficial thing you can do to something like Dune. It's at this point I'm just babbling on, and I should probably just wrap things up here and just say, I recommend the movie. 3 hats out of 4.